I have 7 viewers right now.
I'm about community, learning, discussion, respect, integrity, truth, science, and discovery. Welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. Hello and welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. I'm your friendly neighborhood ghost hunter, Justin Brown, and welcome to episode 30, talking about poltergeist activity. We're going to bring over our chat moderators, and we're going to unmute them, and we're going to say hi to them. What's up, guys?
Hi, what's up?
Good evening.
Are you ready to talk about ghost stuff?
We're ready.
Ready.
All right. I'd like to hear that. So, if you guys are new to the show, how this works is I'm going to talk about a topic. Poltergeist activity is the topic for tonight. If you have any questions for me or would like to be shouted out during the live stream, just comment. All you got to do is comment, and we'll shout you out here momentarily. And if you have a question, periodically I will check back with them on Facebook, on YouTube, and answer your questions. So feel free to interact amongst yourselves and to ask me questions to kind of, incite some interesting conversation about the subject matter. So let's get to it. All right, poltergeist activity. The general term, or the general definition rather, is noisy ghost. It's a Russian derivative that means noisy ghost. So it stems from that. But there's been a lot of theory develop over the years about poltergeist activity. But the bottom line is no one knows what causes it for sure. There's a lot of theories out there and not much, evidence to support those theories. As far as I know. Okay, there's a lot of things that you can kind of narrow down, and we're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about the ability that spirits have to manipulate the physical world. Okay, I do believe that's possible. Do I know for sure? Of course not. But we'll talk about how that's possible, why people believe that, and then we'll also talk about the parapsychological point of view. And that's interesting to me because there's a lot of theory in parapsychology that states that in certain situations, poltergeist activity can be caused by the human mind, by living people, whether it be girls in puberty, people with lots of emotional trauma, people with psychic abilities. There's a whole range of potential causes for poltergeist activity, and there's a range of effects. It could be stuff disappearing, stuff moving, bangs, knocks, footsteps, disembodied voices, light anomalies, and all the way up to full-blown manifestations, apparitions with their own intelligences. And this may sound crazy, but some PK manifestations, as they call them in the parapsychological world, can take on the appearance and the intelligence of the person that it comes from or emanates from, or it could take on its own personality, which is very, very, very interesting if that's the case. So we'll talk about both those things because that's really all I know about poltergeist activity. I know it exists, okay? Me, myself, know that it 100% exists. It's not something that people perceive in the wrong way. It's not a delusion. It's not, some type of psychosis people are dealing with. It does happen, but it's very, very rare. In my experience, I'll tell you a story. Story time again. I lived in this house that I've had some paranormal experiences in growing up. And the first time I experienced poltergeist activity, I was sitting there with my wife, then girlfriend. I'm watching a movie, and this should date this experience because we're watching a movie, a VHS tape. So I'm sitting here watching it with her. We're the only one in the house, and I look down, and there's a penny laying on the VCR on the top. And all of a sudden, it raises up it levitates off the VHS player about an inch or two, flips one or two times, and lands right back down firmly on the VHS player. And this absolutely broke my mind completely. When I first saw that, I did not understand how that was possible, and it just freaked me out. And I turned over to my wife, and I was like, "Did you just see that?" And she's like, "Yeah, I just saw it." So I was obviously more affected by it than she was, which is still weird to me to this day. I don't know why it didn't flip her out as much, but this escalated. Over a year or two, it liked to get pennies and coins. My son had this piggy bank that held hundreds and hundreds of pennies, and we had copper-colored carpet in the upstairs bedroom of this house, and he had dumped them all out as a toddler, and we couldn't find them all because it blended in with the carpet underneath the furniture. So every once in a while, a penny would get winged across the room. And I don't care what you say, this is paranormal. Whether it be a ghost, whether it be something, I don't know. We just don't know what causes it. So that is strange. And then I started seeing light beams in the home. Beams of light that would come out of the floor and go into the ceiling. I would tape up and cover all the windows and doors just to see if I can find the source of the energy, light energy. Couldn't find it. And it would just go away after time. So that was a subject that was always fascinating to me. I want to know why it happens, what causes it. I believe even certain occult practices can cause certain poltergeist-like activity. It's hard to know exactly what's happening if you don't know, any other information about it. So we're going to talk about the poltergeist activity, and if you guys have ever had an experience, I definitely want to hear about it. I definitely want to know what you think about what causes it. I believe that spirits and entities can do it. I believe that the phenomena can stem from our own PK phenomena, and I believe that it's also possible that it's an occult magical effect. So there's three possibilities there, and I want to know what you think about those three. So let's go before we dive down this rabbit hole. I want to go get the shout outs done and over with. Missy, why don't you start? I know we got quite a few viewers.
Yes, we do. We had, at one time, we had Joe Vitale. We have Becky Compton. We have Heather Elliott. We have Bill Davis. Laura Brownlove. Matt Benton. Tony Pelosi. Derek Schreiner. Chad Barr. Lisa is watching. Sean Gilmore. Jamie Hunt. And that's about all I have. I don't have any questions right now.
Sweet. Thanks for joining us tonight. Hopefully we get some interesting feedback and interaction from Facebook. What about YouTube?
All right. We have Paranormal World Investigators, Sam's Wings, Atlantis Paranormal, Truth Paranormal. Let's see, scroll up here. Sam's Wings, Scotty Fox. I don't know how to pronounce the first name. Last name Weiss or Rick. Glenda Holding. just kind of chatting back and forth. So I got a Joseph Manning, Michael Allen Phillips. There's quite a few. I think that's it so far that have commented. There was one. I gotta find it. There was one question here.
Yeah, it might be a little hard to weave through all that. It's going to be a hot topic tonight.
So I'll look for it. You can go ahead and continue now.
All right. Just let me know when you find it.
All right.
Okay. So after having these experiences in my own home, of course, like I said, I want to figure out what the heck they are. Now, some of you that's been watching this show for a while, you know that I ask my mother a lot of questions. She's much more knowledgeable about the paranormal in some regards than I am when it comes to the metaphysical aspect. So I'm asking my mom, like, is this the firefighter guy that haunts the house doing it? And she said she didn't think so, which was really weird to me. And she thought that it was either some other source or could potentially be someone messing around with the occult. So that what made me start to wonder, like, well, what did I do to get mixed up in that? I don't practice witchcraft. I don't do anything like that. I started to wonder if I had any friends or acquaintances that I've been around that messed with that. And she really did not know. And she hadn't been at the house when that activity started happening. My mom and dad divorced. It was just me, my dad, and Christy living there with my firstborn son. And I started experiencing some other strange things. Now, when I watched the movie Ghost, if anybody's seen the movie Ghost, they did a lot of good research on paranormal activity and phenomena that happens that people report. And in that movie, they depict how a ghost may develop the ability to affect matter in the physical realm, the living world, through their own psychic kinetic energy, their own emotional emanation. And what's interesting about how the movie depicts it is that's kind of correlates to the parapsychological thing, but it's more less direct and subconscious. Now, there's a lot of people out there that have psychic ability that do it consciously, knowingly, but most of the time it's done unknowingly. And that's why they call in people, they report the things, they don't know what's going on. They call in paranormal investigators and clergy and psychics to try to figure out what it is. So most of the time they don't know. If you ever watch the show Dead Files, Amy Allen goes into the whole PK theory where she believes that a lot of people with abilities and in certain situations can emanate poltergeist-like activity when initially they think it's spirits or ghosts, but it's actually coming from them. And we're going to talk about why parapsychology believes that a lot of the poltergeist activity stems from living people. And then we're going to talk about why it may not be the case all the time. So this is interesting, right? So if parapsychologists believe that PK is not only the ability to, have telepathy and, do fire starting type stuff, it goes all into a whole spectrum of things. Then if human living people consciousness can do that, then and if that consciousness survives death, then that means people, intelligent spirits, can do it too. So that's interesting to me, right? That means that it's not really, exclusive to living or dead consciousness. It's just an ability that consciousness has, and it survives death if the theory is true. What's also interesting is when you don't know that you're doing this and things happen in your home, things move, things disappear, then come back. You hear footsteps, you hear banging. A lot of the most common things are things being moved, footsteps, banging, voices, stuff like that. I've heard people report to me that they've heard their name being called out in their own voice, or other people that they know calling out to them when they're not there. And that's interesting because that might fit into this whole poltergeist phenomena that stems from PK, emanation from living consciousness, or all consciousness. Let's just get in the habit of saying that all consciousness has this ability, because if it survives death, they can do it too, right? So we'll just get into the habit of saying that. So if that's true, then why doesn't it happen all the time? So it must be some type of emergent phenomena. There must be some system, complex system in place, or that happens that we do not understand yet, at least I don't, that brings about the phenomena in rare situations. So how rare is it, and what is the system that gives rise to this emergent phenomena? That's what we need to know. Now, aside from that, is it the occult doing it? Can people actually cast spells and do witchcraft to cause these things to happen? It's possible, but I am not as knowledgeable in that field to tell you whether it's possible or not. If you are knowledgeable in the chat, please let me know if this is a thing and if you have any experience in that. So the whole thing with the occult, I have some experience with, and I believe, certain manifestations that might be grouped into poltergeist activity, it could be possible, but there are other explanations out there that we need to pursue. What's difficult is knowing how to set up an experiment or how to investigate. So the first thing we do when we go into a residential case is we got this long ass list of questions that we ask the clients. It's like going to the doctor and filling out a medical history with all those annoying questions on it. So if you do enough of those and you get enough reports of the paranormal activity being poltergeist-like, you might start seeing a trend in their health history and their medical history, and maybe if they experience phenomena. One of the questions I remember in the last case we were just on last weekend was, what were you doing when this activity happened? Were you mad? Were you sad? Were you sick? Were you well? Was there a storm happening? What was the weather? It could be environmental factors. It could be, like I said, a system, a complex system of many factors that leads to the phenomena emerging, and that's what we need to investigate. So if you do not already, I have a template that I can share with you of this questionnaire, and you can add to this questionnaire, because I think there's a few questions on there that I need to add to it that wasn't on there after the fact. But it's very, very helpful when it comes to research, because you can videotape everything, you can record the audio to your whole investigation, but there's no way to access the data efficiently enough to start graphing out and finding trends to this complex system we're thinking that's in place. So if at least you have a questionnaire and you file it by date and year and case by case, you can pull out those files and make a spreadsheet on Excel or something, and you can start connecting the dots and trying to find out if there's any trends in the research you're doing. So if you're not doing that, I would strongly suggest you do that. And I always tell the clients and people who ask me to take detailed notes of all the paranormal phenomena that they experience, because then you can plug in all those data points into your graphs and find trends the same way. So there will help you in that regard. Any questions from the Peanut Gallery yet?
Yeah, Heather Elliott has a question. She said, what makes the determination that you're dealing with poltergeist activity? If an entity moves something, is that automatically poltergeist activity, or does there have to be several occurrences?
Good question. I would say that poltergeist activity would be one thing that I would look into, but it wouldn't be the only thing I would look into. You should not assume that it's just one thing. You should just collect data and just see where the data leads you. I strongly feel that data should lead you where you need to go. So, this whole thing about poltergeist activity, it could be all wrong. There's so much data that we need. I mean, you need to take maybe geomagnetic readings. You need to see if there's any get an ion counter and count the ions. I mean, any type of environmental data you can collect, the better for these type of things. It's a very good question, but I'm not sure if there's any clear-cut way you can classify or determine if it's poltergeist activity or not. Now, if it makes noises, that's pretty common for poltergeist, like the whole bump in the night type thing. Or if you see in the movie The Poltergeist and that kind of stuff's occurring, then you can kind of assume that's what's going on. But you shouldn't make any determination without data to back it up.
Okay, Becky also asked, Becky Compton said, why witchcraft? Couldn't you draw something in doing any type of communication with spirit, especially using items that make you a conduit of energy, and the poltergeist actually spirits of people create them?
Yeah, that goes along with what I was explaining before, where the poltergeist activity can be caused by spirits or entities. It could be one or the other.
And that's all the questions I have for right now.
Becky, let me know if I answered that question or if you just misunderstood what I was saying about witchcraft. I'm just saying witchcraft could be a possibility. Anything in the occult. I don't want to, say that witchcraft is the culprit and that's what it is, but anything in the occult that follows along those same lines. All right, Josh, anything on YouTube that we want to address?
Yeah, two more shout outs real quick. Val W started watching, and so did Mothman Historian.
Sweet.
Truth Paranormal said that he had experienced poltergeist activity a couple times. Once at Hales Bar Dam, or maybe twice at Hales Bar Dam, and also at Monroe House. Doppelgangers, he said. Scotty Fox said, my first paranormal event was a door unlocking and opening several times in minutes. So I've always associated spirit with the ability to interact physically. There was something else on here. Paranormal World Investigators said in witchcraft you can call on spirits of strong energies. It's done through elements and offerings. Some think pure and few other bits. I'm still learning. Truth Paranormal also said, Justin, there's a lot of things that I could talk about on the subject, but it's too much to type in on chat. Mothman Historian. Poltergeist activity, a German word meaning essentially noisy spirit, is a classic reported experience. Charles Fort was writing about in the 1930s. Some great old school stuff.
Yeah, the origin of the word poltergeist is cool, but it's interesting that it's traversed all types of cultures into our our present popular culture even, because it's seen in movies and everything now.
And I believe that's all I have so far.
Yes, thank you. We'll come back to you guys. Thanks for putting all that down. I definitely want to know your opinions on this, because the more we go back and forth on it, the better we can learn, and maybe it will help our investigation. The more we consider, because I know just from doing this show 30 weeks in a row, it's definitely helped my paranormal research quite a bit already. So yes, I do have some knowledge and experience with dealing with the occult when it comes to elementals, nature beings, having other entities like that do things that manipulate the physical world. So that kind of falls along the occult and, having entities do that. So that's why I believe that some people may think when they're having a poltergeist moment, it could be, something more specific. So you definitely want to get your questionnaire, like I said, ready and try to fill in all the data points you can with it. And the more, I think the more you investigate that type of phenomena, just it leads to more questions. It's We're not really at the point where we can be sure about anything. And I want to make that clear. When I say poltergeist activity, I really don't know if that is what we can call a lot of things because we don't understand yet. There's a lot of popular cases that involve poltergeist activity, but we don't know if those are in fact true cases of poltergeist activity. One of the most popular and controversial ones that I remember off the top of my head is the Enfield poltergeist, and there's a lot of debate whether that was real. But just like the Gary, Indiana case where the demon house was concerned, there was a lot of eyewitness testimony from reputable people that have no reason to lie, but they could not perceive what was going on correctly, even though that they're trained investigators and people who have training in determining and having critical thinking. It doesn't mean that they're not subject to being wrong. But what is interesting about these cases that involve poltergeist activity and having reputable witnesses to, whether it be chairs moving on their own, lights flickering on and off, any manipulation of physical matter could be considered poltergeist activity. But is it? There's a lot of explanations out there. I think there's a lot of times when lights flicker and it's just you have electrical problems. I think when chairs move by themselves and you clearly see it and other people see it, there's not much explanation for that. There's a lot of speculation that skeptics and science enthusiasts try to do. But the phenomena is so rare and happens so infrequently that it's impossible to test at this point. If we figure out something about it to where we can stimulate the activity to happen, then we could test it. So that's why it's very, very important. If you see something move on its own, you have to pull out your notebook and start writing down notes, because if you don't, we'll never get anywhere. So please, if you're watching this now or if you're watching it in post, write down the time and date, the weather, your mood, who was there present in the home, every single thing you can think of. There is no data point that is not important to write down because we just don't know what the factors are. So that is very, very important. I want to stress that through the course of this show because we need to find out what these things are. We need to find out that what we're perceiving is actually paranormal or not. I believe that a lot of it could be phenomena that doesn't involve the three things we discussed. The PK, the witchcraft, and then just regular, ghosts and entities doing it, whether it be on their own or they were asked to do it through occult means. So what else could it be? There could be some type of seismic activity or some type of infrasonic stuff happening. If you ever watched stuff on it's not infrasonic. I think it's ultrasonic. Is it infrasonic or ultrasonic levitation? Now I'm second guessing myself. I got to Google that now. But there is a type of compression waves and vibration of the atmosphere that cause levitation. Ultrasonic. Whoa. We'll Google it real quick. Ultrasonic levitation. Yeah, I think that's it. Yes, ultrasonic. So what that means is high frequency, vibratory energy that can levitate light things. I'm not talking about stuff that's heavy, but I've seen experiments where they take these speakers that emit these high ultrasonic waves, and they kind of develop or create these compression waves that are layered like a sandwich, and you can literally levitate light things in between the compression waves. And there's all types of cool experiments that I see with sand and powder and granular type material on top of plates with speakers underneath them to create patterns. And that is a way that ultrasound can create and manipulate, things. So is that an explanation? I don't know. Now, are spirits using ultrasonic waves to move things? I've thought about that myself. What's cool about that is you can test for it. The equipment to detect such things is pretty much out of the reach of most paranormal investigators. Any type of infrasound detector or ultrasound detector is not commonplace and usually not cheap to get. I know there's some ghost retailers out there, ghost hunting retailers out there that's tried to do it, but they're just not great at it because it takes, some engineering know-how and some pretty expensive engineering to do that. So you want to consider natural explanations as well. Even though it seems completely unexplainable to us does not mean that it's paranormal. So we can say that. Out of all the cases I've investigated, I have not seen a lot of poltergeist activity reported to me in the last few years. Sometimes you'll get reports of, them saying, I stuff comes up missing and I don't know where it is. We look all over the place. We cannot find it. All of a sudden, like a month, a week, a year later, it appears in some strange spot. Is that poltergeist activity? Well, probably not. Probably not. But if you hear bangings, rappings, all that type of stuff, that could be easily explainable. So the definition of a noisy spirit or ghost is definitely something that you want to try to debunk and explain right away. But the most fascinating thing, I think, is having full-blown entities that with their own intelligences stemming from consciousness and not being, an external entity outside of, your own conscious emanations. So if that is true, that is crazy. So you can have what you may perceive as guardian angels, some protective entities out there. You can have something out there that is constantly lurking and stalking you. It could be anything, but you might think it's something that doesn't involve you when it may very well involve you completely. So how do we know? There is no way to know. You could try things. You could try going to a psychologist or trying to find out if you have something going on emotionally, medically, that parapsychology looks at. If you get medication or if you try to remedy some of these things that we may be having problems with, if those things subside, then that might be supporting evidence of it. So that might be something you can consider. But when I sit down and tell clients that their poltergeist activity could be coming from them, they look at you funny. So if you are considering this possibility and you're trying to relay or convey that information to a client or to somebody that's experienced stuff in their home or wherever, try to be tactful about it. Some people are sensitive about their medical history or their medical problems, so it could be touchy. Sometimes they feel like if you tell them it's them, it's kind of like you saying, well, it's your fault, so you need to do something about it type thing. They might get a complex, or they might be defensive about you telling them that. So maybe on a case-to-case basis, you may not just come right out and tell them that. You may want to try to find evidence of it. And if you do feel like that might be happening, maybe just go around that situation if you feel like they're not going to be receptive to it. Maybe give them some tools or give them some methods to do something about it, but not just right out tell them that they're the one causing it. So that could be a touchy thing. Do you guys, I want to hear about some experiences from the chat. If they're long, you can private message me, and with your permission, I'll read it to the live stream. But I want to know what you guys have experienced and what you guys think poltergeist activity is, where it comes from, what causes it, how to determine if it's poltergeist activity or something else. Because that would interest me. Is there anything else while we're waiting on those responses? Anything else going on? Questions, comments, shout outs?
I have a couple. Chad Barr asked, hold on, it's up here pretty far. He said, is there any time of day or certain seasons that spike activity, paranormal activity?
There's theories. There's the most widely believed time period where there's a spike is the witching hour, or the devil's hour, as some say. And that's around 3 a.m. in the morning. And the most widely accepted belief about that is that they believe that Jesus Christ was crucified at 3 p.m., so the mocking of his crucifixion would be 3 a.m. So they think that evil spirits might choose that time to mock the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Do I believe that? No, I don't. But there have been cases where activity does spike during that time. And it's interesting why that happens, but there is not a whole lot of data that we have collected to say that that's when, because there's so many times that it just happens during the day, during the night. It doesn't have any rhyme or reason why. A lot of, as far as the time of year, it seems like the warmer it is, the more activity you get, but not necessarily. Okay? There's a lot of people that still do report stuff through the winter months and the cold months. There's some people believe that the colder the temperature is, the less energy we have, the less energy the spirits have. I don't know if that's true. There, superconductivity is a thing. The drier things are, more static electricity can be present, and the more conductive materials may be. So if spirits have anything to do with charged particles or charged energy, then the colder things are, the better it should be in theory. So hopefully that answers that.
Okay, Becky said, I'm so confused. I don't understand what makes it different. Is it the movement?
Different from what?
What makes a poltergeist different than a regular entity? Is it just the movement?
Okay. Here's some classes of phenomena. You can have electronic voice phenomena. You can have any type of voice phenomena, which is a manifestation of a voice or a noise that is caused through speech. You have visual manifestations where you see the ghost. Okay? There's a lot of things where people feel like they're being watched, or they feel dread, or they feel uneasy, or they feel tingly. That's a subset of phenomena. Poltergeist phenomena is when things are physically manipulated or affected. You can see it happen. You can feel it happen. Now, poltergeist activity could be physical manifestations on the body. It could or it could not. Some people might think it's demonic. Some people might think it's benign paranormal activity. But when it's physically doing something. But back in the day, it used to just be some noisy ghosts where they create footsteps, they bang on walls, they bang on surfaces. Then people started experiencing things being moved around. That's kind of been, grouped into the poltergeist activity. And what's even crazier is like what I'm saying, the parapsychological world is saying that there could be some light anomalies, some visual manifestations, and some full-blown apparitions that can be caused by what we classify as poltergeist activity or PK manifestation. Okay, so we're talking about things a little bit outside of poltergeist activity, but I'm kind of grouping in similar phenomena. But, a lot of people might have different definitions of what poltergeist activity is. So if you have Becky, if you have a different definition, then by all means, let us know what you think it is or what you've learned about it.
Okay, Chief Lynn said, I think it's opposite, Justin. I think he died at 3 p.m.
Yes.
So 3 a.m. is the bad time.
Isn't that what I said?
No, you said he died at 3 a.m.
I did.
He said he died at 3 p.m. He said he thinks it's opposite.
Yeah,
he thinks
died
it's
at 3
p.m., not 3 a.m.
Yeah, if I mix that up, I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, 3 a.m. in the morning is devil's hour.
And then Heather said, can poltergeist activity cause there to be smells like cigarette smoke, for example?
Good question. That is a subset of paranormal phenomena. If is it poltergeist? Because that would make it, smells that we know of are molecule. They're physical. So when we smell them, they have, in theory, rationally thinking, it has to be a molecule going into your nose and the olfactory bulb lobe in your brain it's going through your thalamus and being processed through that part of the brain. So that involves physical matter. So that could be a physical manifestation. Maybe not all physical manifestation are poltergeists. Maybe some of them are. That's what we need to learn.
Okay, and then Becky said, so a balloon walking down a hallway like someone is holding it, possibly poltergeist?
Possibly. It's another someone physically or something physically holding it and, carrying it down a hallway. Not necessarily, though. Like I just said, some physical phenomena could be classified as poltergeist activity, some not.
Okay, and that's all I have for right now.
All right, great questions. Anything on YouTube?
Yeah, quite a few here. Let's see, Jessica Bias jumped on. Better late than never. Also, Jen Rogue jumped on. And then we have, let's see, Mothman Historian. There's a lot of great old German geists or ghost stories going back as far as the 1700s that I know of. They would classify a lot of this stuff using the word poltergeist. That's something that you had mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Val W., have you investigated or researched the energy that resonates off the object that has moved? I've always been curious about that.
Not me. I know Matt Benton has a habit of collecting and keeping objects that have been moved and puts them in a box for further research. Now, I have not seen it emanate something like a magnetic field, so I don't know about that, but there may be something there to measure or detect about the object, but maybe not. Maybe that's not the case all the time, but we certainly should try to do that.
You answered this a little earlier, but Scotty Fox had also asked, what about smells or odors that sometimes occur with paranormal events?
Right.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that it's tricky with physical manifestations, right? It's just tricky.
Val W., I've heard that whistles and or popping sounds occur right before poltergeist activity.
I have heard that. The popping sound, definitely. Whistling sound, I've definitely heard that, but it's hard to know if if it's a precursor to paranormal or not. A lot of old buildings we go in, there's freaking pigeons and all kinds of birds and things that make whistling sounds that could be not in your field of vision when you hear it. The popping is interesting. Is that a precursor to paranormal phenomena? It could be. It definitely could be. There is a theory that the barometric pressure changes right before paranormal phenomena happens or during paranormal phenomena. Sometimes people report their ears ringing or a popping in their ears or a popping sound. So that could be the reason why. Whatever emergent phenomena is occurring, it could have some effect on the pressure in the immediate area.
I've had that happen to me a couple times before. I can't relate that to paranormal activity, but I've had it happen on investigations before.
Popping or
popping, ears ringing, that kind of thing. Scotty Fox said kidney stones can be broken down with ultrasound tech, so why not levitation?
You definitely can levitate things with ultrasound. You can look it up on YouTube.
Eric Weiss, ghosts use magnetism since they can influence electromagnetic field. That was a question.
That's a theory. If spirits, ghosts, entities, whatever you want to call them, if the energy involved with their what makes them up, what they're made of, is electrically charged. So whenever you have an electrically charged energy going on, it creates a corresponding magnetic field. Now, if you can generate enough charge and enough magnetic field, you can physically affect and do things. Absolutely.
Scotty Fox also said apportation is the term for paranormal transmission of objects.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
He said apportation, APPORTATION, is the term of paranormal transmission of objects.
Okay.
Let's see. I know I have more here. Mothman Historian, you have to wonder with those who seem to be sensitive or psychic if they could possibly be tapping into something. They often say that they receive messages or visions from their higher power or guide.
There's also a lot of forms of ITC that involve human contact, like Ouija boards, dowsing rods, pendulums, that sort of thing too. So yeah, it makes you wonder.
Truth Paranormal doesn't believe in the witching hour. If he could put that in the comments of why. Maybe he did down here further. I've been holding my spot because there's quite a bit. Let's see. Scotty Fox, I thought Jesus was taken down before sunset for religious reasons. Not sure.
3 p.m. would be before sunset, or right before it. That might be what he's saying.
Yeah. Val W, I've recently learned that I'm clairaudient, but also was advised that if I have one of the clairs, I have them all. So I do hear a lot and get visions that I don't understand.
Yeah, if you get visions, that could be clairvoyance. If you hear stuff, that could be clairaudience.
Mm-hmm. Truth Paranormal, there's a few locations that are very active during the winter months, and there are locations that are very active during the summer months. Just depends.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mothman Historian, I don't get why specifically poltergeist activity brings forth speculation of the witnesses being sensitive. Wouldn't all paranormal experiences possibly imply that the witness is at least factor in the encounter taking place?
Yes.
At least a factor, he said.
Yes. I believe in most cases they are. Now, what was the first part of that question? Again, read it to me again.
He says, I don't get why Specifically, poltergeist activity brings forth speculation of the witnesses being sensitive.
Okay. Did I imply that at all? I don't know if I did. I don't know.
Jen R. Rogue said underneath that's what Justin said, I thought.
All right.
Okay,
not necessarily. I don't necessarily think that you have to be sensitive if that's what he's saying. What I'm saying is the things I have read in parapsychology state or imply that people with abilities can cause poltergeist-like things to happen. It can make things move. It can make noises. It can create entities. It can create manifestations, physical and visual. And otherwise, possibly. You don't necessarily have to be sensitive or have an ability to be a factor in the phenomena. You could be at the right place at the right time. It could be something about your genetics, your DNA. It could be something in your, in your history, your genealogy. It could be many things.
Another question by Mothman Historian. Do you think popular culture, such as the movie of the same name, has affected people's view of poltergeist activity and the use of the word over time?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Everything's semantics, and there's a lot of influence through popular culture, like movies. It's the first time I've ever heard the term was the first Poltergeist movie, which was one of my favorite movies. It scared the crap out of me. So, yes, most definitely, mostly all the time I see people refer to poltergeist activity. It stems from what they've seen in movies, magazines, and books.
Let's see. I haven't even reached the bottom yet, so I'm still going. Truth Paranormal. There really is no clear-cut classification of what is and isn't poltergeist activity other than being noisy.
Right.
Mothman Historian. In the Low Hotel with Eric of Epic Paranormal, our whole group heard what sounded like a popping noise while using the spirit radios. It was pretty cool. I'm looking for specific questions here.
Missy, while he's looking, do you have anything else to add? I don't want to, because it's getting towards the end. I want to try to get as much in as I can.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Chad Barr asked, have you seen or heard of a ghost or paranormal activity being violent?
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then Christy Brown had a question. She said, what about those acorns?
What about them, Christy? Yeah, Chad, I've definitely heard about ghosts and paranormal activity being violent. And that is a very controversial subject, obviously. There's a lot of people out there who's never experienced any violence or physical harm from spirits or the paranormal, but I have seen where it potentially has caused harm to people, either psychologically, physically, to their loved ones, to themselves, scratching them, pushing them, driving them mad. All those things I've definitely heard about. I've been touched before by something that I believe was paranormal once. And sometimes when you come in contact with spirits and you're either channeling them or you allow them to enter you and you can perceive what they want you to perceive through your body, that could be very dangerous. So you want to be careful with that. They're not trying to do any harm, but they could cause you harm. Anything else, Missy?
No. Chief Lynn had a comment. He said, Philip heard popping noises and you can see him react to them, and then a mist formed around his head. He caught it on film.
I'd like to see that. All right, go ahead, Josh?
I did get to the bottom here. The Mothman historian said, yes, I was just saying that the whole witness being the cause, a part of it, theory seems to get brought up more with the word poltergeist than other times, as you were saying.
Okay. Yeah. My biggest question in the paranormal is, what influence do we have with the phenomena that occurs? Like, are we one of the main ingredients in it? So we set up cameras and we vacate the premises and we try to capture things when people aren't there. And I believe things do happen. Now, let me tell a story to kind of wrap this up. I was investigating a bar. There's a lot of bars that hold a lot of energy, and there's tons and tons and years of reports from stuff happening at bars. So there was this bar I've investigated quite a bit down the road from me, and one night, the mother of this woman who owns a bar and the daughter that helps work at the bar were sitting at the bar, and they were arguing about a shelf that was on the bar holding some shot glasses and wine glasses. The mother wanted to rearrange the glasses and put some of them on the other side of the bar. And the daughter said, no, I like how they are. Don't mess with them. And they started arguing about it. And this is pretty common. There's a lot of, arguments and fights and emotional type energy saturating this place all the time. But what they reported was, right when they were arguing, one of the wine glasses that were hanging from the shelf started to tip back and forth, clinging together against another wine glass, and sometimes it would raise up and then go back without hitting the wine glass, and they're looking at it. And they're like, what the hell? They go over there, they investigate it, they can't find any reason why it's happening. So what's even stranger, they go home, they close up. About 6 a.m. in the morning, they have 2 CCTV cameras facing it, and they captured it on tape. The shelf that's kind of anchored onto a sheetrock wall and screwed in with those rails, it ripped the shelf, the brackets, and that railing that's screwed into the sheetrock off of the wall, made it flip in the air about 4 feet out from the wall, and crashed all the glasses in the shelf onto the floor. And there's evidence of no one being there and it not being set up. It's not just something that just gave way and fell on the floor. You see it literally ripping off the wall and flying onto the floor, spinning. And I'm like, okay, does their fight have anything to do with that happening? I think there's supporting evidence of it, and that's why over the years of the cases I've been on, a lot of that poltergeist activity that seems like it's poltergeist activity happens when, people with abilities or not can, cause certain things like that to happen. Now, that was that happened pretty quick. It didn't act like it built up over time and then happened sometime randomly. Like, there was a cause and effect to that. A lot of times there might be a delayed effect, but that's crazy to me. A lot of places, hospitals, prisons, bars, even apartment complexes, they're just sponges for this possible PK energy. Just do weird stuff. We try to understand. But Josh, is there anything else on YouTube before I wrap the show up?
No, they're still just talking amongst themselves. Scotty Fox did say, after a drowning at work, one of my fellow workmates heard a loud splash next to him at 2 a.m. and saw no waves or splash while working next to the pool.
Nuts. That's crazy. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap the show up, guys. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Missy.
Welcome.
All right. Awesome show. Obviously, we can go on for hours about this subject matter. A lot of people have different definitions of what poltergeist activity is. At the end of the day, really, no one knows. They kind of guess at it. Some people might have an idea, more information and data on it than others. But at this point in time, throw your hands up. We don't know. So keep trying, guys. Keep taking notes. Collect all the data you can. poltergeist activity is interesting, and we would definitely, myself included, would like to know what causes it. So there you have it, guys. Thank you very much for joining me. All the input you've given me, comments, questions, is very valuable to me. I can't stress or find words to accurately convey how I feel about it. It's just great that we're establishing this community. It's growing each and every week more and more and more. And I appreciate that, guys. It's awesome. Thank you. Check us out. InterfaceDeath.net. Check us out. What we're doing, the research methods that we use, the gear that we use. We're constantly trying to get better. We're constantly trying to learn and perfect what we're doing. Okay, no one's perfect, but we try to be. So check us out, interfacedeath.net. Check out Deadlight LLC for the best infrared illumination in the paranormal field. If you're tired of that crappy infrared light you've been using, go check out Deadlight. Check everything out, guys. Let's go over to the Patreon screen here. If you like what you see on this show, on Necromancer, and coming up, we have a show that I'm going to talk about after we shout out the patrons. But without Patreon.com, we just couldn't do what we're doing. We're doing so much right now, and the people you see on the screen just make it possible. Clay Borman, RJ Murphy, Scotty Fox, Danette Goldtrip, Jessica Bias, Bill Davis. Thank you very much. Okay, if you want to see this content keep going, if you want to help contribute to it, make sure it's here to stay and make it better, consider going to patreon.com/interface, support Interface Death. The link's in the description. Check out what rewards you get for a little bit amount of money that you pledge each and every month that goes straight into our research and our production, whether it be live or otherwise. It helps us out tremendously. So please check that out. A new show is happening very soon. Next Monday, December 3rd, from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, the Supernatural Symposium is happening. I am getting a panel of an investigator, a psychic, and a skeptic, and we're going to put them on a panel, okay? And we're going to do a 2-hour show roundtable style, getting all the opinions from experienced people in those fields of research to talk about paranormal topics. I don't know what the paranormal topic is. I'm thinking I'm letting this paranormal community vote on it. So look out on the Justin Brown blog page and all the other places I'll share it all around. If you want to vote on what the first topic of this show is going to be, I'm thinking about doing it tonight. So if you want to vote, if you want to make a contribution or a suggestion to what topic, either respond to that post and comment or just email me or private message me. But I'm looking forward to the show. It's going to be on Live Paranormal Facebook page. If you have not followed and liked that page yet, go to Live Paranormal on Facebook. Make sure you like the page and follow their post. It's going to be on that page. It's got like 56, 57K likes on it.
Yeah, and they have, I think Rob said something about over 100,000 followers. So a lot of viewers on that site.
All right. That's what I thought. So definitely go over there on Monday. You'll see the promotions for that going up. I definitely want you to check out that show and support that show as well. I'm going to need your help with topics, getting connected with guests and doing the networking. So I'm going to leave it there. Thanks very much for joining us tonight. Tomorrow night we have Mary Marshall joining us on Necromancer. Hopefully that goes well. I've heard that she is fantastic, and I'm looking forward to that interview. Stick around for the video promotions if you have not seen them. As always, we got some cool paranormal videos coming out. We're working on a film, Man vs. Paranormal, is going to be coming out early 2019. Stick around for all that stuff. I love you guys. You're in my heart. I will see you next time.
this room over here? What the fuck, dude?
Whoa.
That's weird.
You didn't do anything, right?
No, it just turned.
Justin too close.
No.
He opened that door and it went off.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you just run out of there? What was that?
I don't know. I feel like I can't breathe in this room.
Generally, Justin, when you guys investigate, do you just take long pauses, wait to see if you hear things, observe everything that's going on?
It depends on the location and our experience with the location. So in this case, at Waverly Hills, since we've been here before, we've heard a lot of stories, done a lot of research, and investigated. We typically like to listen a lot because we hear the coughing, we heard it last time, so we can hear it again.
Effects of prolonged isolation, paranoia, depression, helplessness, brain stimuli decreases. Now, what happens when you put a man isolated in 3 paranormal infested buildings for 3 nights in each location, all by himself? No one to help me. No one to protect me. Just me versus you. Does paranormal activity increase?
So what do you think of this piece of evidence?
I think by far it's the best piece of evidence we have seen here.
That's flat out amazing. And that's something we've never captured.
Oh, wow.
What? Nobody has ever got it on video.
That's creepy.
In 11 years.
So no one's ever caught this on video?
Never.
Ever.
Here is my story, and here is what I went through for my research into the paranormal.